In today's video, we're going to be looking at Tesla, we're also going to be looking at Singaporean GDP and oil at the end of it all. Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be a host through today's trading journey. Now, to give you guys a bit of insight on what we're starting off with, we're going to be talking about Tesla from a few different perspectives. The first part of is Tesla Inc. in general. It has had its price go up to $1,773 overnight before falling back down to $1,497 per share. Now, to put this in a little bit more perspective, it's been priced 6,348 times its last earnings from 2019. It is then priced 166 times next year's earnings as well. 20 times its own book value, and all of that whilst only producing 365,000 cars in 2019. We have to assume that that number is going to be much less this year for 2020, being the pandemic. They've had their factories shut down, not only in California, but also in China. So we have to make a guess that that is likely going to be the case. Now, putting this all into a bit of perspective for you all to sort of think about this, we've also got Toyota, which is the next largest automotive manufacturer behind Tesla now. And they are at $125 per share. They sell for 61% of their sales, 91% of their book value. And in 2019, they produced 10.7 million cars. So does that really tie up or even compare to the value of what Toyota is in the scheme of things when it comes to Tesla? Now, if we're thinking of it from an automotive perspective, considering Tesla also does a bit of tech things, then we probably need to look at it from a tech perspective as well. Alphabet Inc., they are a $1,500 roughly share price per share, and their quarterly revenue is 10 times higher than Tesla. So why is it that we're seeing the prices this much higher for Tesla? Tesla Inc. is technically more valuable than the top 8 automotive manufacturers, except for Toyota being included in that, combined. We've seen the pandemic that inhibits mobility and gives you less demand. You've also got oil prices that have slid down and are producing historically low levels of pricing, which also means then that we would have less demand for the use of cars and of course less demand for EVs. Now, returns to me really don't justify the price that we're actually seeing in Tesla. So there's a little bit more to it than what we really know. And I think there is potentially a bit more of a bubble sort of estimating in the next little bit. In a big tech, maybe we might be seeing a bit of a bubble. In the rest of equities, I don't think we are. But it's definitely got something to do with the extreme stimulus and lenient banking criteria. We've also got a monopolistic effect playing the field. So if you look at Tesla, they really don't have much competition. And in terms of EV manufacturers, they are at the top of the game. So yes, they have that. But the assumption for the pricing that we're seeing on Tesla must assume that we are seeing prices really rapidly rise behind the idea that they are going to be a monopoly forever. Now, I just don't think that's going to be the case, because if the technology does take off, then we're going to see other automotive manufacturers, perhaps with a little bit more practice in the automotive manufacturing side of things rather than the tech side of things, offering alternative solutions for those that might be interested in EVs. Not only that, we've also seen some interesting data that comes through. Now, if you were to look at the commission-free structures of Robinhood, a broker in the US who deals with stocks and equities, then you would likely see that just in Tesla in the last 24 hours, a single 4-hour period had 40,000 active accounts buying and selling Tesla over and over again. They've also got a $20 billion short side book at the moment on positions against Tesla going up. And that is the largest in history that we've seen for a single company that is going up in value for having short positions against it. So are we looking at Tesla as being a good, valuable option to get in? I personally don't see the value in Tesla right now. Perhaps maybe at the beginning of the year or even the beginning of 2019. But now that it's gone up during a pandemic without much for sales or any way of knowing from earnings reports, it's not something I would seriously be considering as an investment opportunity for myself. Now, the next part is that if they are able to pull off having a positive earnings report for this quarter, then they're going to be entered into the S&P 500, or theoretically they should be. Now, if you recall back, both Google and Facebook did not have that same response, and they weren't able to get in immediately because there were other questions that had. It really does come down to S&P before they make the end-all decision. But regardless of that, if they do get past this quarter, then they will have been able to do it well, so done. And that means that they will likely have an opportunity to at least get in until someone else is booted out. Now, moving on from that, we're going to have a quick look at Singaporean GDP. Singapore's GDP has contracted by 41.2%. That is huge. And you can see just from the chart behind me how far it really has dropped from its standardized price. Now, why is this an interesting factor and why has it fallen so far? First point is it's a really big number. That's why I find it most interesting. But the reason why is actually behind what's happening in terms of their general economy. Singapore has really been hit hard by the pandemic. They are an exporting sort of a nation, and they also do import a lot of their own local goods. So if they don't have the imports and exports enabling them to go back and forth between other countries and operating as a little bit of a trade haven, then they are obviously going to have a pretty big hit to the economy, just as we're seeing here now. So this is going to be an interesting case to see and play out because they have not long just had political elections going on, and we are still yet to see a couple of other factors that are going to be coming in terms of data. But one thing's for certain is that it's likely going to be a lay down on the exports, manufacturing and import side of things, and there might be a little bit more for them to come considering they're still ongoing with a little bit of virus themselves. So keep an eye on Singapore, especially if you do trade the Singaporean dollar, and of course any of the stocks that are listed on the Singapore Stock Exchange. Now, to move further from here, we've also got some stuff on oil today. Oil has slid down further. Now, we haven't had any news that's come out specifically, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of insight. Tomorrow, we do have an OPEC Plus meeting. And now that we've seen oil starting to slide down, it would indicate that, as we were speculating earlier in the week, that oil might be getting their cuts tapered down a little bit, which would then mean that they're obviously going to enable a little bit more production rather than so much of a cut. Because if it was making sense, you would have a cut pushing price up. If they were to do nothing, then price would probably sit relatively stable. If they were talking about increasing the amount of production or tapering off the cuts that they've got, then we're likely to see a fall in price. So that'll be something for you to have a look at tomorrow when we do hear about the OPEC meeting. We're not exactly certain on exact times just yet because it is going to be a digital one. Obviously, with the pandemic, they can't travel. But regardless of that, we will find out soon enough, and hopefully it'll be earlier on during the session rather than later. Now, moving on for the rest of the news for the week, or today at least. We've got French bank holiday today, so please be aware of that if you're trading anything on the euro. We've also got Chinese trade balances figures coming out, and we're going to be looking at UK GDP and US CPI. So keep an eye on all of those while you're going throughout your day. They're likely to be pretty standardized. The forecasts are already up and about, so feel free to check them out on our website if you would like to. Now, if there's anything from today's video or perhaps some of my other videos you'd like to get in contact with me about, please shoot me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.